back in 2005, I got a speeding ticket. Yeah. Now, I wasn't caught by the police. They didn't pull me over as such. I was spotted going down the dual carriageway, doing 50 in a 40 by one of those static cameras, and they sent me the penalty notice through the post. So that was a nice surprise when I got home from work that day, checked the mail. Well, that's fantastic, I thought. 3 points on my licence and a £60 fine. 60 quid, that was 20 years ago, it's about £100 now. Alright, I thought I can live with that, 3 points. And then, bugger me if a couple of days later, I got another penalty notice through the post. Oh, I thought this must be an administrative error. You know, this must be the same one they sent me two notices. No, it was a different one from a couple of days later on the same stretch of road from the same camera. So, I mean, I don't, just to be absolutely clear now, I do not deny I was speeding. And I, was caught. But I couldn't believe that I'd been caught a second time and got a second fine even before I knew about the first one. So arguably the deterrent effect of the first one didn't even have a chance to work, did it? Good job, in fact, that I wasn't driving up and down that road on a daily basis. I could have got 12 points, which in this country means a ban, before I even knew anything about it. Anyway, I was absolutely gutted there. Another bloody one. 6 points, 120 quid. And then, you're not going to believe this, a week later, I get another one. No way, I said this. I'm watching myself on that road now, and incidentally, even now, 20 years later, I still watch myself on that particular road. I was not speeding, this can't be right. But this one wasn't for that stretch of road. It was for somewhere else. It was up by a town in North Wales called Llangollen. Yes, that is how you pronounce that. So now I was looking at 9 points, that's one more away from a ban, and £180. I was just a lowly factory worker. 180 quid's a lot of money back, especially back then. And I phoned the police up. What the hell's going on, like? How can you do me 3 times like this? So they said, oh, well, we'll send an officer around to discuss it with you. And a couple of days later, one did, and he was a young fella, and he's very polite and friendly and everything, and he brought all the evidence with him. And I looked at the first two. With the first two, fine, like I say, they had me banged to rights. They had the photograph of my car, an old Volvo 440, was it? Gunmetal grey. Volvos are quite reliable, solid cars. Well, they are if you look after them, but mine was like 20 years old at the time and had not really been looked after. I'm amazed it could go 50 miles an hour, to be honest, but it did. I was driving it and I got caught, and that was that. So fine, okay, the first two. The third one, though, he couldn't find the evidence for it. And I said, I think not unreasonably, hey, come on, if I've done something, you provide the evidence that proves I've done it, I'll put my hands up to it. I'm not trying to get away with anything here, but I need to see the evidence. I don't think that's being a conspiracy theorist. And he said, yeah, fair enough. I'll have to go find the evidence and I'll get back to you. But he didn't. So I assumed, no, they didn't find the evidence. They dropped it. Well, it's a few months later now. It's the summer of 2005. We're moving house. We were renting a house then. Now we were in a position to buy, so that's what we were going to do. And I just checked the post one last time in the old house before we left for good. And good job I did. There was a big fat envelope sitting at the bottom of the front door. And I opened it and it was from the police. Notice of intention to prosecute. They're taking me to court. The first two banged to rights. And, I didn't complain. I paid up. I took the 6 points and I paid my 120, and that was that. This was about that third one. And it provided the evidence that the policeman at the time said he couldn't find. somebody in North Wales Police had been told, well, get the evidence for this, put it together. And I looked at it, and, well, it was a load of rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Rubbish because, first of all, they got my name wrong. They got my address wrong. I'm amazed it found its way to my house. It referred to a car I did not own and had never owned. And it was driving down a road the far side of Llangollen, a town I've only ever visited twice in my whole life. Both occasions were when I was a child. And as far as I know, I've never actually driven down this particular road. It was a load of rubbish. And I thought, like I said to the officer, if they had the evidence, they had me bang to rights, I'd just pay it and be done with it. And I wouldn't complain. I'd take the L, chalk it down to experience, and off I go. But I wasn't having this. This was a load of rubbish. Whoever had put this evidence together was an idiot who did not know what they were doing. And I wasn't going to pay up another 3 points, stand on the brink of a driving ban, just because some nitwit working in the admin departments of the local police force can't do their job properly. So I said, right, I'm going to court then, I'll go see. And well, now what do? I need legal advice. So I went to a solicitor. And in this country, I think solicitors will give half an hour of free legal advice to people, as a preamble to anything. And this solicitor, he told me, well, if I were you, I'd just take the fine and be done with it. But I nodded along with him, but then I left the room, and I thought, no, bollocks, I'm not doing that. There's no evidence I actually committed this one. The other two, yeah, and I paid for them. Not this one. No, I'm going to go to the court to see what's what. Of course, I go in there. I don't have any legal representation. I'm just me sitting there in the waiting room just outside the court itself, and surrounded by, drunks and wife beaters and all sorts of unsavoury characters. And, I don't deserve to be here. I'm not looking down my nose at anyone. I shouldn't be here. But I got called up and I went. The magistrates were a bit sniffy with me at first. I think he was, the old school type. Everyone who walks through the door is a scumbag who needs sorting out. But that didn't last long, because it became clear fairly quickly that this was not my fault. To them, anyway. And the clerk of the court saw this, and the magistrate saw this, and they became a bit more sympathetic as they saw that I was there on my own, trying to sort out what was an obvious mistake on the part of the police. And I think what also helped me in that moment was that the solicitor, junior young woman, I think it was sneering a bit, because she could see I didn't know what I was doing. And the magistrate, clerk of the court, didn't like that at all. So I think they became more sympathetic towards me. And they're not allowed to give me legal advice, obviously. They're supposed to be impartial. But they said, have a think about this. Maybe, And it was clear they were trying to edge me towards pleading not guilty, so that we'd have to come back again later on. And the police would have to bring their evidence properly, because I think the police's solicitor had gone in there expecting me to just plead guilty, and that would be that. It was a rubber stamp job. As soon as it became clear I wasn't going to do that, then they'd have to come back later on and actually bring their A game with them. A game. And so that's what I did. I said, not guilty, Your Honour. And he adjourned. I left, carried on with my life, and a new date was set. A couple of months down the line, I think it was. Went back up there, and it was a different magistrate this time. And there was no prosecution there, which was weird. It was just me and a couple of other staff and the magistrate, the clerk of the court, and he couldn't find the notes. for the case. So he had to adjourn again. So I get home thinking, I've got to go back there again. But there's a letter from my pen pals at North Wales Police, and it's telling me they've dropped the case. The reason? No prospect of a successful conviction. This is why, when I went to the court, the magistrate had no idea what was going on, what we were talking about. There was no case. They'd already dropped it by that point. So why didn't they send the letter to me earlier to stop me going up to the bloody court, taking a day off work and wasting my time? Because the bastards had waited until the very last second before sending that letter out, bearing in mind that at any point I could have contacted the court or whatever and changed my plea to guilty, and they would have got their conviction without having to do any work. And they were hoping all the way up to the end, the limit of the time they had, that I would do that. And it was only on the last day that they gave up and dropped the case, sent me the letter. But of course it takes a couple of days to come through the post. So by the time I got that letter, it was too late for me to actually know that there was no case and not have to go all the way to the bloody courts. I mean, I could say, yeah, yay me, I beat the rap. But no, they dick me about. They often say the process is the punishment. And this is very true with the legal system, that very often you could have done nothing wrong and you're found not guilty, and on paper it looks like nothing's happened and everything's fine, but it's not. You go through months and months of worrying about these things. That's punishment, even if you're not ultimately convicted of anything. Well, what's the lesson here today, boys and girls? What's the moral here? Is it make sure you obey the speed limit? Because none of that would have happened if I'd done that. Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's the sensible one, isn't it? Or is the moral of the story that the system exists for its own sake? And that any contact with it, regardless of your rights and wrongs, will get you chewed up? That's a rather anarchistic way of looking at it, perhaps. Personally, I think maybe somewhere between the two. We need systems in our society, otherwise it is anarchy, and you don't want anarchy even if you think you do. But at the same time, don't be too trusting or respectful of systems that, for the most part, that exist to serve their own needs and are staffed by, at best, self-serving midwits who are doing what they're doing for their own benefit, nobody else's. So I'm telling you all this, not since you asked, but to get it off my chest.